This is breaking news, and I need you to stop everything you are doing right now because what I am about to reveal will fundamentally change the way you understand everything happening in the Middle East at this very moment. Every single empire in human history believed it was permanent. Rome believed it with absolute certainty. Britain believed it without question. And right now, sitting in the halls of Washington, American power believes it too. Every single one of them was wrong. What I am about to lay out for you is not some wild conspiracy theory floating around the internet. This is a pattern, a deeply rooted, historically proven pattern that has repeated itself across 3,000 years of recorded human civilization. And right now, as you watch this, it is happening again in real time right before our eyes. The United States of America is not fighting a war against Iran. The United States is fighting and losing a war against its own replacement. And that replacement is closer than anyone in Washington wants to admit. Now, if you want the kind of raw, unfiltered, brutally honest analysis that absolutely no mainstream news channel anywhere on television will ever dare to touch, then you need to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that subscribe button immediately. We do not run ads. We do not take orders from networks. We do not answer to corporations. We deliver nothing but the truth every single week. And this is one of those weeks where the truth hits harder than ever before. Here is a question that almost nobody in the media is brave enough to ask. If Israel is truly America's closest and most important ally in the world, then why is America getting weaker, more divided, and more fragile every single year that it continues to defend Israel? I need you to think about that carefully. Let it sit with you. Since 2001, the United States of America has spent over $8 trillion on military operations in the Middle East. Let me say that again so it sinks in. $8 trillion. That is not a small number you can just brush aside. That is enough money to completely rebuild every single collapsing bridge across America, fix every broken and underfunded school in the country, and end homelessness in the United States, not once, not twice, but 3 times over. Instead, every single dollar of that money went to bombs dropped on foreign soil, to massive defense contractor profits, to wars that never ended and never once produced a single clear and definitive victory. Meanwhile, and this is the part that should genuinely disturb you, Israel, the very country that America has been defending, funding, arming, and fighting for decade after decade, has grown dramatically stronger, more technologically advanced, and more regionally dominant with every single passing year. That is not what a genuine alliance looks like. That is what a one-sided transaction looks like. And America is the one paying the bill every single time. Now, to truly understand what is happening beneath the surface, you need to understand a historical pattern that I call the mercenary shift. Here is exactly how it works and why it matters right now. Every great empire throughout history, as it ages and grows comfortable, eventually stops wanting to do its own dirty work. It does not want blood on its hands anymore. It wants to look civilized. It wants to appear democratic and clean to the rest of the world. So what does it do? It hires someone else to handle the hard and brutal work. A proxy, a forward force, a mercenary. And here is the part that history has repeated without a single exception. The mercenary always replaces the empire. Every single time. The Romans started out as hired mercenaries fighting for the Etruscans in northern Italy. They fought Etruscan wars. They absorbed Etruscan losses. They bled and died on Etruscan behalf. And then one day the Romans looked at their employers, soft, comfortable, completely dependent, and asked themselves one devastating question. Why are we serving these people when we hold all the real power? Rome became the empire. The Etruscans disappeared from the pages of history forever. The Mongols served as border guards and frontier fighters for the Chinese dynasties. They protected the boundaries. They absorbed all the punishment. And then Genghis Khan looked at the extraordinary wealth and the deep weakness of China and asked that very same question. The Mongols did not just rebel, they conquered all of China. The Aztecs began as mercenaries for the Colhua people in central Mexico. Same exact story, same devastating ending. The mercenary always became the master. Now, I need you to ask yourself one critical question. What exactly has Israel been doing in the Middle East for the last 75 years? It has been fighting America's wars, taking all the international criticism, absorbing worldwide condemnation, and serving as the forward military force so that Washington could keep its hands perfectly clean. Israel has been functioning as America's mercenary in every meaningful sense. And right now, at this very moment in history, Israel is asking that same ancient question the Romans once asked, the same question the Mongols asked, the same question every mercenary in history eventually asks. Why are we still the servant when we could be the master? To see where this is heading, you need to understand how global power actually operates. At the base of the entire system sits the empire, the raw military muscle that enforces the rules and protects the flow of money and resources around the world. For 80 years, that role has belonged to the United States. Above the empire sits global finance, Wall Street, the City of London, the Bank for International Settlements. These people do not hold guns, but they write every rule of the economic game. They decide who gets credit and who gets crushed. And above everything sits the system itself. The World Bank, the IMF, the United Nations, institutions designed to make raw, brutal power look polite and legitimate. The people who actually run the system, the financiers, the strategists, the old power networks, do not care about any individual nation. They care about one thing only: the system continuing. They need reliable military muscle to enforce their rules, and they are watching the United States fail that test in real time. You measure imperial failure with 3 tests: unity, capacity, and determination. On unity, recent polling shows only 40% of Americans support direct military action against Iran. That means 6 out of every 10 Americans either actively oppose this war or simply do not care about it at all. A country cannot project imperial power across the globe when its own population is this fractured and divided. On capacity, America spends 41% of all global military spending, more than the next 10 countries combined. And yet an Iranian drone costing just a few $1,000s has successfully targeted American military assets worth hundreds of millions. A $13 billion aircraft carrier had to withdraw from active operations within just 3 weeks because it was too exposed and too vulnerable. The F-35 fighter jet, $100 million per unit with 26 years of development behind it, has been consistently challenged by Iranian air defense systems. This is not military superiority. This is a bloated budget that has been eaten alive by corruption and contractor greed while actual battlefield performance collapses. On determination, during World War II at Iwo Jima, over 6,800 American soldiers died taking a single island, and the entire country accepted that cost because they understood and believed in the mission. Today, the Pentagon is absolutely terrified to report even a single soldier death to the American press. America is attempting to fight a nation of 90 million people across mountainous terrain with a sophisticated military doctrine while desperately hoping for a clean, fast, television-friendly victory. That is not determination. That is a nation that no longer believes in what it is fighting for. Now apply those exact same 3 tests to Israel, and the entire picture flips dramatically. On unity, 82% of Israeli citizens support current military operations. 66% believe they are fighting for the very survival of their country. That is not mere political support. That is raw, unbreakable national will. On determination, the entire world, including international courts, the United Nations, and dozens of foreign governments, condemned Israeli military actions in Gaza. Israeli public opinion did not crack. The government did not collapse. Israel continued moving forward without hesitation. Whatever your personal view on the morality of those actions, the strategic reality is unmistakably clear. This is a country that absolutely will not stop. On capacity, Israeli intelligence executed what military analysts around the world are calling one of the most sophisticated covert operations in modern history. They spent years, possibly decades, embedding explosives into communication devices used by Hezbollah operatives across Lebanon. In a single coordinated strike, they shattered the command and communication backbone of one of Iran's most powerful regional proxy forces. The operation cost an estimated $275 million. No other military power on the face of this earth has demonstrated that level of intelligence precision in recent years. Israel passes all 3 tests with flying colors. The United States fails every single one. Now here's the part that absolutely no Western news channel will ever say out loud. The current war against Iran is not primarily about nuclear weapons. It is not about terrorism. It is not even really about Israeli security in the short term. This war against Iran is functioning as a mechanism, whether by deliberate design or by inevitable consequence, to completely exhaust the American empire and systematically clear the ground for Israeli regional dominance. Think about it clearly. Who currently controls the Middle East? Not Israel. The United States does. American military bases sit in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Iraq. American naval forces patrol and control the oil shipping lanes. American diplomatic power shapes every major deal in the entire region. If you study the concept of Greater Israel rooted in certain interpretations of biblical text suggesting Jewish sovereignty extends from the Nile River all the way to the Euphrates, then American military presence in the Middle East is not protection at all. It is occupation of the very land under discussion. So the strategy, whether conscious or not, is brutally straightforward. Pull America into a long, expensive, completely unwinnable conflict with Iran. Force America to spend trillions more. Force America to overextend its military until the American public becomes so exhausted, so angry, and so bitterly divided that Washington has absolutely no political choice left but to withdraw entirely. And when America finally pulls back, who steps in to fill that enormous power vacuum? Here is what makes this analysis even more striking and disturbing. Iran is not actually losing this war economically. While America has been applying heavy military pressure, it simultaneously and quietly allowed Iranian oil to flow back into international markets because Washington feared a devastating global oil price spike. The consequence was enormous. Iran made an estimated $14 billion in additional oil revenue in a remarkably short window. Iran's entire annual military budget is approximately $10 billion. America essentially handed its own adversary more money than that adversary spends on its entire military in a full year. At the same time, Iran has strategically locked itself into two major global trade corridors. The North-South Transport Corridor connects Russia through Iran to India and the ports of the Arabian Sea. China's Belt and Road Initiative runs through or near Iranian territory at absolutely critical points. For China to reach Europe efficiently, or for Europe to reach Asia cost-effectively, Iran's geography is nearly impossible to bypass. This means something profoundly important. Even if America achieves every single one of its military objectives against Iran, Iran still wins economically. Iran will emerge from this conflict more globally connected, more wealthy, and more deeply embedded in international trade networks than it was before the first shot was fired. Every military escalation strengthens the very country America is desperately trying to weaken. So what does the post-American Middle East actually look like? I call it Pax Judea. Just as the ancient world once lived under Pax Romana, and then the modern world lived under Pax Britannica, and then Pax Americana, we may now be witnessing the birth of an entirely new regional order with Israel sitting firmly at its center. Israel occupies the geographic intersection of three continents, Africa, Asia, and Europe, with coastlines on both the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. The emerging India-Middle East-Europe trade corridor runs directly through Israeli territory at its most critical point. Whoever controls that corridor controls the single most important new trade artery of the 21st century. Israel possesses more data centers in the Middle East than any other country. It has world-class technology universities, deeply rooted intelligence infrastructure, and the most advanced artificial intelligence development programs anywhere in the region. In the modern world, data is power and surveillance is control. Whoever builds and operates the AI backbone of the Middle East will shape how entire populations are governed, monitored, and managed for generations to come. Israel is the only regional player currently positioned to do that at scale. This is not some dramatic announcement. This is a quiet structural transition happening right beneath everyone's feet that most people will not even recognize until it is already irreversibly complete. And right now, at this very moment, young American soldiers are stationed across the Middle East, paying for this transition with their lives, while the cities and towns they left behind crumble with failing water systems, underfunded hospitals, and opioid epidemics hollowing out entire communities. The money that could save those communities is being spent on bombs, and the primary beneficiary of those bombs is not the United States of America. America is spending its own future to build someone else's present, and the American people have not been told the real cost. Now, if this is the kind of fearless analysis you have been desperately searching for, the real story behind the headline